Today I'm going to show you the best choices for cheap Digimon to use as your first dungeon clearer or L Digimon farmer and clear up some outdated information from all beginner guides. I'll also be talking about 2 must-have Digimon that every player starting out should go for. If you'd like a general overview of these Digimon's strengths, you can pause the video and look at this tier list on screen. If you're looking for the quickest, most balanced and cheapest option here, you can go for Omegamon. Keep in mind, if you have a BM Digimon on your starter, you should probably use this instead of any Digimon on this guide, as it will be quite a bit stronger. For now, I'll explain these Digimon starting with the weaker side. Zhuqiaomon is on the lower end of this guide because he has a lot of his points distributed in agility, rather than strength or int. This means you'll end up with less damage than the other options, but it's still usable for dungeons in a pinch. On the upside, Zhuqiaomon is one of the relatively few Digimon with an AoE ability on his F3, which makes him a great starting option for farming B, V, and E Digimon if you add the efficient attack trait. Another upside is that Zhuqiaomon can be added to almost any Digimon as their Mega Evolution. This allows a bit more customizability with what stats you want on the Digimon's line, which can be a bonus. If you're going to go for Zuk, it's probably a good idea to go for another on the list as well so that you can properly trait him for what he's good for, which is farming. Use a stronger Digimon for dungeons and L farming. Garurumon X is a viable pick for your first double attack Digimon, but he's a bit on the expensive end since his card comes from PvP. You can make this a bit cheaper if you want to use Z'd cards and then use Garurumon X C4 cards to Evo return if it doesn't succeed. You'll need a lot more of the Z'd Garurumon cards. Overall, it doesn't do anything particularly special compared to other cheaper options, so I recommend only going for him if you like how he looks. War Greymon X is a pretty decent Digimon overall. It's about in the middle of the chart cost and strength wise. Because he's a vaccine attribute, he benefits from the attribute bonus without using converters against quite a lot of mobs you might be killing, Baihumon or Qinglongmon. Although the War Greymon X card can be obtained from PvP, you also get it from the H Digimon that spawns in Wind Valley. The rest of the line is relatively inexpensive because he can be farmed outside of PvP, slightly less expensive than Garurumon X. His strength and agility make him great in 4-2 of Royal Base because he has 0 int while short compared to some other Digimon with better stat gains. Like War Greymon X has a really nice stat allocation. He has more int, which is better compared to the agility that some other options have. Int allows characteristics to rock more often, so you want to have that much more than you want agility. Whereas attribute isn't particularly useful, neither is the Dark Element. Because of his stat allocation, be a really decent carry. His cost isn't bad at all either, so most of his cards can be obtained through premium boxes. Like War Greymon X card is exclusively from War 2 of Royal Base. Probably be able to find someone selling it for a decent price. Like War Greymon X sits close to the middle, strength and cost wise, making him a good option for anyone. Omegamon is an amazing choice for a first Digimon and my personal pick for the best one to start with. It has amazing stat allocation, only wasting 1 point in con, having 3 strength, 3 int, along with 3 agility. This makes him deal pretty good damage, but also activate double attack much more often than others with lower int. He also has a slight chance to increase damage by 5%, which averages out to an extra 2.5% damage overall, and sometimes he takes less damage. Omegamon can be very cheap to make. The card to make him is untradeable, but you can fuse it yourself with a War Greymon C1 and a Garurumon C1 at Baihumon and Time Village or Baihumon Village. The Omegamon C2 and below is also tradable, so maybe you can get a good deal there. You can also Geograss into Omegamon using level 51 plus Agumon and a level 51 plus Gabumon. This makes him only require the 2 nets to catch those Digimon rather than needing a card or to trade other players. You'll eventually get plenty of these nets through the reward board. Omegamon's vaccine attribute helps them defeat a lot of L Digimon that you might be facing, Qinglongmon or Pheromon. Overall, I think Omegamon is a great pick, something that will easily help transition into stronger Digimon later on. When you eventually move past Omegamon, it can also be used as part of the Resonance or Paladin mode, which is a nice little bonus. Baihumon is a great pick for a first Digimon, being able to be put on almost any evolution line and also having Presentiment as an additional trait, which sometimes lets him dodge single ranged attacks. There's not that much to say about Baihumon other than he has great stats, is fairly easy and flexible to obtain, definitely making him one of the best Digimon in this chart. Qinglongmon is a bit harder to obtain than the other holy beasts because his Digicore is obtained in Sky 3, which requires a pass to enter. You can still buy it off other players, but it will cost a little bit more. It can definitely be worth it though, because Qinglongmon, just like Baihumon, has double attack and presentiment. Presentiment sometimes lets him dodge single range defense, but unlike Baihumon, he has 4 int rather than 2, which allows him to proc his characteristics more often. Overall, his stat allocation and traits make him an amazing choice for a first Digimon. Omegamon Zwart is a lot more expensive to get than the other options on this list, but he's worth it. He only has double attack characteristic, but his exclusive characteristic also raises his average damage every time you're killing a virus Digimon or using a virus converter. The average damage increase for this is around 7.5%, which is a sizable bonus. Additionally, stat gains are really great, being the same as Qinglongmon: 3 strength, 2 agility, 1 con, 4 int. Zwart is a straight upgrade over Qinglongmon, as the vaccine element is generally more useful. You'll have to use less converters, or the converters will likely be cheaper. Because he has an AoE F3, it's also viable for use as a farmer without using drills or expensive items. Zwart is definitely the ace in this chart. He's the most expensive, but he's got the most tools at his disposal until you get a better Digimon. You've got enough money to drop for a Black Digitron, and I definitely recommend going for him. Gaioumon is not a good starting Digimon because it doesn't have double attack naturally. Boom has a 1.5 times multiplier compared to 2 times damage from double attack. His exclusive is nice, but to get the most out of him, you'll have to get the double attack added trait, which is incredibly expensive. At the time of this video, it's 2 to 3 bill. Gaioumon definitely has his uses in things like Royal Base Floor 2, and he has some good attributes, but I really wouldn't recommend him as a starter Digimon, only for the fact that he takes much more to get up and running. Additionally, if you use the double attack added characteristic, then you won't be able to fuse it with Absorb, which you'll need for later dungeons. Gankoomon is super unique. His cards are only obtainable in PvP, which makes his line extremely expensive. On top of being extremely expensive, he also requires double attack to reach his full potential. It's an added trait. At the time of this video, the Gankoomon evolution line is around 3 bill, and the double attack trait is 2 to 3 bill, bringing his cost up to at least 5 bill to reach his full potential. Gankoomon's exclusive trait is what makes him amazing. This trait adds flat damage depending on the Digimon's defense, which makes you able to do decent damage even before getting decent gear due to the added flat damage. The only time I'd recommend using Gankoomon as a beginner is if you already have him from when he was cheap. He's too expensive to use for his power level. Money would be much better off spent on getting better gear to make other Digimon viable instead. Imperialdramon Fighter Mode is a must-have Digimon. Be obtained by using a Fighter Mode C1 card, Imperialdramon Dragon Mode tamed. You get a free level 100 Imperialdramon Dragon Mode tamed from the jump event start of the game. If you haven't done this already, talk to the agent in Digital Administration Bureau. What makes Imperialdramon Fighter Mode so great is his exclusive characteristic. 40% of the time, he does 100% damage to all mobs when he AoEs. This basically means that if you're against 5 Digimon, then you'll do 5 times the damage you normally would against them. Your damage isn't being split. This allows you to farm much higher than you'd usually be able to, the very low cost of making him. Because of the jump event, him being already level 100, this is a really great Digimon to start off with to farm for some bits for other Digimon or upgrades. Definitely recommend this for the best use if you're a free level 100 Vmon. Lilithmon is the best free-to-play tank by far. She has an exclusive trait that allows her to reflect damage to the attacker and dodge the attack 40% of the time. On top of this, she also has wind protection, so she often dodges AoE attacks. Every time Lust procs, Lilithmon dodges the attack, along with reflecting damage comparative to what she would have taken back to the attacker. This can be used to cheese a lot of bosses, and the more damage you're taking, the more damage you will reflect back if Lust procs. Some bosses can be killed purely with Lilithmon, just by receiving attacks until the exclusive procs. Even though Lilithmon has a con stat of 0, she can still be very tanky with gear, since that's where most of your tank stats come from. On top of that, because she dodges so much with wind protection and Lust, she's the best choice for a tank by far, on top of the fact that she reflects a lot of damage back on the opponent. Lilithmon is something that everyone should have. The Lilithmon or Lilithmon X, or both. She's invaluable in certain boss fights, and can be useful when you're farming, when you're leveling, and you're not quite strong enough to not have a provoked Digimon yet. You can easily be used to tank all dungeons, although later on, tanks with an attack buff may be preferred. The only thing you'll need to make Lilithmon is to catch a Plotmon or a Nyaromon with a Rookie Net or in training training net respectively, and then obtain Holydramon C1, Lilithmon C1 cards to evolve. It's worth getting a Lilithmon to at least level 71 so that you can put the Provoke trait on her that you can use her as a tank. I hope this video helped you, and please let me know if there's any that you'd like to see in the future. Bye.